I said, we don't even have that.
Yeah, we could do it. I could do a whole thing on that.
They,
But I don't need it. It's just like,
Already getting the chance.
I wasn't sure how much time we had. Like, a bunch of weird ones, like, in the car, it looks like a swamp. Just so I try out the last thing. Yeah. I have now just for someone who just put my. I'm like, I apologize so much. Probably a failure, but it's not.
We're not a.
Like, normally it's like awkward for whatever reason.
So now
Everything's going well.
yeah, today is well, today we go commercially, we have some house. Push stuff back and that stuff, but we still like we still our list of where. I consider, yeah, it's everything.
What was so surprising? But he might think that the right holes are playing.
Delaware County, we make I might be wrong on the number. Under 100,000. Delaware County, Delaware funding. Yeah. So room and board. Yeah, you know. Yeah.
That's like $90,000.
Yeah.
I know.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, right I would say our national organization.
She's contacting.
I don't have. But it is like within consulting.
Oh, I actually.
I know how to say that.
I think for the CRC. They're not saying, it's been done with our lab, for it to really be library. Yeah. Library, people, library, she's not on entity.
Yeah.
For her, you know, she put so many,
She's put a ton of resources together. Content.
Interesting.
oh my God, that's
Maybe I think about and I kind of felt like I know. A lot of these colleges will send these documents. You don't have to say like, you know, how are you how are you doing? How are you? And it was a whole like,
For their research.
oh. Utilities have their, you know, exact thing that they would say. This guy said, well, maybe it's time now that how we're setting them about how they're, you know, taking care of themselves. And I thought, yeah, you know what? Exactly.
I have seen, I got frustrated there. Sometimes I just, like, I want to be over on the food, and I find like, something out there, and we have 5 minutes, and it's right next to the line. We need to have college. This is-
She loves my district. Very well.
Yeah.
So it's not even, I don't know if you can eat it, like, that's why.
Yeah, that's what we should, we have talked about that several times, just want to talk about.
Like, it's never done that, it's like, you can't eat it, it's not.
Oh.
Like, everything, yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah.
Now, like, you know, back in our days.
Sure. I feel like I want to think about like I said, oh, it's in the other day. I was like, that just made me so. Yeah, well, it's like, you got too much.
Oh.
I'm not sure that's a compliment. It's not.
Yesterday on Instagram, I was with Australia, one Instagram post where the guy, father's sitting in his car with the 2 daughters, and the daughters are screaming. Oh, yeah. Never words that like, even like, I did not know anything. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, I think of that, like, so I don't think that's actually required. I think it's just generationally,
And it's what's faster. Technology is great, so much faster.
Yeah, something that caught on out in Washington, Seattle, like never had before. Oh, now.
Right.
Getting that sign.
Well, you know,
They have to be. Just gonna look at it.
yeah, just.
I don't know if it's chat.
But I have friends, I think, but I don't know which, I know they have like a fundraising, I don't know which one.
Oh, that's Stephen.
So someone just invited me.
Right.
Our maid, that's our option. We launched the March first. But, oh yeah.
I have to remember to get this. That feels like 5 minutes long. Like,
I know. It's a production. Everybody goes to work. They're very like. Here, I think. Not worth It's been. That's right. What did you do before?
Okay, so we can.
I'm always good. I'm blind.
On the. Yeah.
And you know, they broke me in.
I mean, it's a small town. Yeah, of course. But there's like that.
And I trust one.
You gotta hold down the red button.
I want to just let everybody know that the food has finally arrived, so we're gonna start about 5 minutes late, give everybody time to eat. So
I would, well, I don't think he's so fast because. Like, I didn't realize
You're welcome. Yeah.
that's a pretty good deal. What? You don't have both. Nobody else. That's not good.
There's two, there's the January is. Why don't you just make sure, and then each email has what it's. And that's the one that is right now. Yeah, they're separate. Okay. Yeah, okay, so I should have that, and then I could let you go after that, we can see it, and do that. Okay. Okay, thank you. One time. It's a sunrise group.
Can I get you guys some water? Coffee? Yeah, I think, yeah. You want water?
I'm sorry, carrying my girls. What takes this away? Environmental science teacher.
Yeah.
Far back, that was not already staffing. He would bring his own plate, silverware, like cups. I love that. Students. I'm gonna try to bring out better things. I hope you find it. Yeah. He wasn't. I didn't. The director of their network. And their director. But she's been there, Thank you so much. Very well.
Oh, right now, yeah.
I hope that they can. Oh, yeah, there's so many things.
And well, it's split.
Yep, yeah. We can't access from anywhere, but a lot of.
Well,
But we're the kids down here, all
We were doing all those little more. Everyone knows.
You're right. You and your son are.
What's going on? We have a bit.
Riots.
Upper end.
Yeah, that's why.
It's like you are out.
Only see my son. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get started now, and even though some are still dining back there, we gotta get going before I forget why we came. This is for guests and visitors, my name is Jim Farmer, I'm president-elect of this club. I'd like to welcome you to the 39th meeting of the 49th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. Today's invocation will be by Roger Johnson.
Let's pray. Open our eyes, God. There are times when we can over the harsh towards or critical of others. Please help us see people through our eyes so we may be quickened to listen. Please look over the college campuses as they are overrun by radicals that want to turn your desire for freedom. Turn over your desire for freedom. Please bring peace to Americans on either side of the aisle as they can. We communicate better in the United States. Thank you, God, for the food that we're about to have. Amen. Yeah. While I've got the microphone, I'm gonna do a couple of happy bells. The first one, today is Pat and my 20th wedding anniversary. And the second one is my grandson ran in the Penn relays last Friday. And my wife and my daughter, we drove out. And I'm going on, who's been on the Pennsylvania Turnpike recently? Anybody? Well, there's a lot of construction. And the construction zones are 55 miles an hour. The last tunnel that I went through going east, there was no construction sign. So and the tunnel was 55, so I hit the accelerator. And all of a sudden, there was a policeman on the side going like this. Pull over, the lights were on. Jennifer said, "What are you pulling over, Dad?" She didn't see him. Pulled over, came up, we talked to him, and my wife was patting him on the hand and we were laughing back at the world. He said, "Where are you headed?" I said, "Philadelphia. We're getting off on Valley Forge. We'll have a good trip."
Great.
I was going 78 to 55.
Okay, the sergeant needs to remember to fine Roger for that later.
Yeah.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to introduce our one visiting Rotarian today, which is Carl Holtman. Carl, would you please stand and wave at us? He's from the Whitehall Bexley Club, as I recall. Now, anybody with announcements, please come forward at this point.
Short announcement line. On your tables again, you were here last week, you saw we had the 50th anniversary survey. If you did not get an opportunity to fill them out, there they are again. We also got them out, I think, online, not online, but that's over email. So please, only one, I only need one survey, unless you want to tilt the scales in favor of one thing or the other. But, again, this week, and I'll wait about another week for anybody wants to respond to me by email. And then we'll come up with a plan for our 50th anniversary. Thank you.
Yeah, just a reminder, 1 week from tomorrow, which is May 9th, we're having another Buddy Box event at 6 p.m., 6 to 7 p.m. If you can make it and have not signed up, please sign up. Contact Christy Ruffy for details. Thank you.
Guys. 14 days. The travel raffle is 14 days. I know a lot of you haven't bought your tickets yet. Shame on you all. Please go buy your tickets. If you need help buying your tickets, please let me know. I think we've raised 15,000, maybe 16,000, sold almost 600 tickets. I think that's all I got.
Well, I would add to that 16,000 isn't nearly enough. I think we need to sell, what is it, 32 to break even, something like that?
Yeah, like 400 more tickets.
So we need 400 more, so everybody get out there and email your closest friends and relatives.
I'm still here with NGSE where we have a team of citizens from Romania coming over here somewhere in the 1st of July. They'll be at our club. Again, I'll be looking for chaperones and hosts for the evening. Please check that with your partner and see if we can have 6 families or 5 families host for overnight. So they can stay with you and have a dinner and maybe do a wash for them or like that. They're great people. Until we get the exact dates, I can't go and say, okay, I'm looking for this. But check it out, in about a week or so, I'm gonna be coming and saying, let's sign up.
Okay, thank you. Now our sergeant today is the one and only Alan Grossman.
Well, hello. Nice to see you all today. Mr. Apple, in honor of you gracing us with your presence today, would you mind carrying the pot for me? I'm so very happy to see you. I won't even mandate that you put money in, but you're welcome to do it. Why I talk to you when I walk in. On the announcement side, I'll just make a quick announcement that says your foundation's been doing a lot of work helping people with $1,000 for rent. There seems to be a rent crisis going on. If any of you are old enough to take money out of your IRAs because you have to, and you don't need that money, please think about giving that to the foundation tax-free. You don't have to pay tax, you don't have to worry about tax deductions, you can just have your financial firm send the money to the foundation and then we can continue to help people. Thank you. Anyway, on that great note, how about happy dollars? Who's got them? Done.
I'm happy that the weather is so good that Al and I could wear our Rotary shirts for the first time this year.
So is Steve.
And Steve.
But we've been wearing them all through the winter.
Yeah.
Steve. That doesn't stop us. Make sure Roger's dollars get in there. He said he has some. Peggy.
Yes, I wish I had more money. I just have $2 left, but I just want to thank everybody that donated to cancer this year and for our Rotary board that we went over $2,000 this year for kick cancer from our club. So thank you, everybody.
Terrific. Who else is happy?
Joe Patrick.
Oh.
Yes, I'm on Zoom.
I see. Well,
I'm on Zoom. Can you hear me?
no.
You cannot hear me. I appreciate you telling me that. I'm happy because in my effort to sell our raffle tickets, I visited the Worthington AM Club and I won the split the pot. They were devastated, but I'd like everyone to know that almost all of my winnings, which were almost $450, will go toward buying raffle tickets.
Thank you, Joe. Oh, you just moved, Jim.
I have two. First is that I just spent a week, wonderful week down Hockenville fishing and hiking. So it was a good week. And secondly, my sister going to pick up, she had valve replacement surgery and she's getting out early. Did very well.
Overachiever she is.
Yeah.
Who else is happy today? Dave Kettridge, you must be happy.
Yes, I'm not.
Haven't you got $1 for being happy? Maybe even 3?
Sold a boat. I should say something.
Yeah, second happiest day in a owner's life, right? Who else is happy today? Not very many happy people here? All right, fine.
I'm happy.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Well, you don't have to be happy. You're not a member.
I am not a member, but I'm happy to be here with my colleagues presenting to all of you today. Thank you.
We're happy for that. Too. Ken?
I was happy last weekend. My wife and I were invited to a wedding in Nashville. Instead of the easy Southwest flight, we decided to drive down, spend a day and a night in Bardstown, Kentucky, and if any of you that drink bourbon, it's a really neat experience to visit those distilleries and learn about the history of the distillery.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, I brought home 13 bottles, party at the Cherries this Saturday.
Nice. Last time I was in Bardstown, it was helping the FBI find a murdered lady, but anyway. True story. Who else is happy? That's it? All right, so y'all know that I like these things. It feels like everybody's got them on, but if you don't have this one, this little pin thing that I know we gave you at some point, please throw a button in there. Everybody that had a birthday in April, or we test, put your hand right up there. No birthdays in April, that's a sad state of affairs, all right. There are some people here who couldn't figure out how to get pants that go all the way to the floor. So, if you're one of those people, raise your hand so Jeff can come and get $1 for you. We like to see legs covered in this organization on the men's side anyhow, different when you're outside.
Is this 1972?
Yes, yes, I was just born, in fact. Okay, what national days are today? I know. What national days are today? Huh?
May 1st.
It is May 1st, you're absolutely right. So, all right, so I'm gonna help.
Law day.
Law day, it is law day. So anybody that's a lawyer, please throw a buck in there.
Yeah.
I mean, law day really doesn't have anything to do with lawyers, but it's got it in the name, right? The United States observes Law Day annually on May 1st as a day to encourage all Americans to reflect on the personal rights and liberties which are enjoyed and exercised daily. So there, it's also National Skilled Trades Day. Okay, who knew that, right? Across the nation, many businesses require highly skilled workers to fill a multitude of trades in healthcare, construction, manufacturing, industry, and service categories. Learn trades in a variety of fields, from machinery and construction to medical and beauty, whether you're interested in being a chef or mechanic, working as a medical doctor, or helping others as emergency medical technician, firefighters, etc., nursing aid, vet tech. Oh, there's so many things. If you ever did anything that falls into that category, national skills trades or skilled trades, please throw $1 into the bucket. Throw.
It's also National Travel Advisors Appreciation Day.
Oh, we appreciate you, Rose. But that's not in the calendar, just saying. It's National School Principals Day. Right, School Principals Day is to remind you to take time today and say thank you to the educational leaders who look after your children every day. After all, they guide academic success and set the tone for an entire school. What they don't do is raise your children for you. Please remember that and tell those that think they do. So, if Jennifer or anybody else here has anything to do with education, please throw it up. And Law Day we got covered. It's Silver Star Service Banner Day. So we celebrate Silver Star Service Banner Day on May 1st in recognition for the sacrifices of American service members have made for our country. This day is for Americans to remember service members who have been wounded in combat, are sick, or those who are dying. Who here was in the military of any branch? Raise your hand. Big and high. And so if your hand's not up, please throw a buck in there in support of those that have done it for us. Okay, this is the best day of all. Nobody even knows what it is. It's chocolate parfait day. Right? We have a hard time resisting a sweet celebration for National Chocolate Parfait Day. The delicious layers of chocolate cream and more chocolate sweetly stacked together is enough to make us skip lunch and go straight to dessert. So if you've ever gone straight to dessert, throw $1 in there. I do that every day. You can tell. All right. Would you believe it's National Mother Goose Day? I'm telling you. Honors the imaginary author of a collection of fairy tales and nursery rhymes we loved as children. Most of us remember Mother Goose as an elderly country woman in a tall hat and shawl, but she is sometimes seen as a goose wearing a bonnet. If you have grandchildren, put $1 in there. Because you can still read to some of our grandchildren, even if they're grown up, put $1 in there anyway, because you probably did read to them once. And finally, it is National Loyalty Day. About recognizing our freedom as Americans, the loyalty we have to our country, and National Loyalty Day. This National Day reminds us to honor our American heritage and the freedoms we have. If you haven't put $1 in the dollar in the thing, put $1 in there for National Loyalty Day. Finally, where do fish keep their money? In a riverbank. Oh. Thank you.
And now we have two speakers who will be introduced to us today by Ms. Frederica.
In honor of it being Chocolate Parfait Day, I'd like to direct your attention to the brownies that are in the back because they are incredible. It's my, sorry, I can't even see over this podium. It's my pleasure to introduce to you our speakers today from Estrella Consulting. We have Amber Gilsdorf and we have Jamie Kirby. I met Jamie a couple months ago and we were discussing college admissions. Both of the speakers today help college, high school students apply for colleges. And I don't know about you, I started Ohio State in 1985 and I did my own admission process. I mean, you filled out a piece of paper or a couple sheets of paper, you filled out financial aid, you wrote an essay, and it was a done deal. I am shocked to learn about how different it is today for students and the entire process that they need to go through in order to look for different colleges and apply for financial aid. We think that the digital world has made it so much easier for us in many ways. But what I learned was that the digital world has actually made it more complicated for students because they have 400 different admissions, digital types of tools to go to. So I found the topic fascinating and I hope you do too. And at this time, I'd like to introduce both Jamie and Amber to you.
Jamie and I are also vertically challenged, so I'm gonna move this a little. Is that okay? Can you still hear me all right? Okay, great. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Amber Gilsdorf, and as Lisa already said, I work at Estrella Consulting. This is I just finished my 6th year, so I'm now into my 7th year. Prior to working with Estrella Consulting, I was a high school counselor out in Granville, Ohio, where Denison is. I worked there for 9 years as a school counselor, and I was in charge of the college counseling curriculum for the entire building. And prior to that, I got my master's in counseling at Ohio State. Ohio State. All right.
I actually followed a very similar path to Amber. I've been with Estrella for 1 year. I started last April, so I just finished my first application cycle with Estrella. Before that, I was at Bishop Watterson High School. I was the department chair of counseling there for a few years. I was there for 9 years total. And prior to that, I was at Fisher Catholic High School out in Lancaster for 6 years, and I got my master's from Ohio State as well. So I graduated the year Amber started, so we did not know each other in grad school, but our paths have merged now.
Yes. Happily so. So we've put together for you a quick agenda. We say quick, but truthfully, we could easily do a whole day on each of these topics. As Lisa aptly pointed out, the process is, I heard this phrase the other day, the burden of so much choice and for really like underdeveloped, still maturing minds and the lack of guidance and support sometimes that students encounter on this process, it has become ironically so much more complicated with the digital tools. And Jamie and I are old enough that our process was all paper-based applications as well. There was no online apps. Like, I was only aware of the schools that I'd fringely heard about in my high school in rural Ohio. So we are now, I think, because of that, trying to help our students have a little bit more of a clear idea and a through line in the process. So we have these 3 items we're going to talk with you about today. The first is, what is a college planning consultant? Most likely, if you have kids or grandkids, you have some fringe awareness that they have a school counselor in their high school. As you'll see in a little bit, we have very high ratio of students to single counselors, which was the experience both Jamie and I had in our practice in schools. I had 300 students to my one self that I was in charge of ushering through grades 9 through 12. And the amount of time in a day, in a week, in a year that I got to spend with those students on post-secondary planning was minimal at best. So a college planning consultant is a much more specific, in-depth, personalized, individualized support system for students in high school. I explain it sometimes to families as though, like, if you hire a tutor for your student for geometry, it's the same idea, just for college. So that's one way of thinking about it. You'll see that we put a picture of a concierge up here, and it's because it's incredibly personalized. No 2 students are the same, and I can attest to that. I've worked with families with twins and triplets before, and they all are so different in their needs or their path. So the consultant gets to know the student very much like we like to start with our students, ideally sophomore year. It gives us a really long runway to get to know them, their values, what makes them tick, what motivates them, what are they interested in, and help guide them into activities, summer opportunities, jobs, internships that are going to help them fine tune and explore things that they're interested in. So it looks like it kind of pulled funny. Sorry guys for some of the formatting, but at Estrella Consulting, we offer all of these services with a personal touch. So when we say that, we mean everything on this list is personalized to the student. So yes, it's a career. We do career and aptitude assessments, but we are spending time with the students, breaking them down, going over those results with them, their parents, helping them understand how this assessment teaches them about them. I don't know if you had the privilege of taking these types of assessments in high school, but when I did them and when I did them with students as a high school counselor, I didn't have enough time to even explain what the results meant or how they could take those results and actually do something substantive with them. That is not the case with us. We're making sure that each family and each student understands what they can do with the information they now have about themselves. You can see the rest of the bullet points here. We advise on summer programs. We provide guidance on internship opportunities, scheduling, summer programs, standardized testing, because that's a part of this process as well. We develop college lists for our students based on what we have learned about them. They answer tons of questions that we have for them about what they value in their future college. What kind of school do you feel would be best for you? We have them do visits, report back, and then from that information, we build out a college list that not only fits the students' priorities, but, and all of you, if you have kids, you can understand the parents and family priority.
Could you raise that mic just a little? We're missing some of your words.
Is that better?
Yeah, much better.
All right. So what I was saying is building a college list based on not only the students' priorities and the qualities that they really want in their college list, but also parent priorities. And a lot of parents, understandably, have financial priorities in mind. That was not something I was ever privy to in my work in high school. I didn't know. I can tell a student that at school XYZ might be a great fit, but I have no idea of the family's financial profile to even advise if that school is going to be affordable. we work with the entire family in our consulting practice to make sure that we are not setting up a student to become a statistic later on with student debt. So that is a huge part of the work we do with our students and their parents. We also work on essay development. So a lot of students, if you're on the scholarship committees that read for Rotary, you might have had a chance to read some student essays, and sometimes they could have used some polishing and some work. And so we often find that we are the first time students have had instruction and feedback on how to write about themselves. They're used to writing for English class, research-based writing, analytical writing, but they've never had to actually talk about themselves in their writing. So we develop the essay from beginning to end with them, and then any supplemental essays that their colleges may require. We also help them with every step of the application process. We are not filling it out for them. We are answering their questions as they navigate the applications. There are so many questions on there that are really nuanced and specific about activities, what counts, what doesn't. And most of these students do it in the summer when they don't have access to their counselor at their high school. So we run different camps and workshops for our students to help them get those questions answered. And then a big part, the money, the financial aid piece. All of our students in their junior year, their parents complete calculators to get a sense. We have different calculators they do to get a sense of what the federal government thinks they can afford to pay for college. Maybe that's not what they want to pay for college, usually isn't. And then we're working on a strategy to make sure we have hearts of teachers, and we are trying to instruct and inform parents how to build a college list based around what they can afford or think they want to pay per year for college. This is where so many families go wrong. It's apply to these schools, figure out how to pay later. That is not a proven method for success in anything. I didn't do that when I got my house or my car. I figured out what could I afford, and then I got it. And we take that same approach with our parents. And then finally, this time of year, we are doing a lot of support in the decision making with our students, because many of them have their final decisions back and are trying to figure out what's going to be best for me, what school should I attend. Why to hire someone like us? As I mentioned at the top, in my previous life as a school counselor, the average student gets around 38 minutes with their high school counselor, and that's 9 through 12. This varies, of course, depending on school. Private schools, smaller schools might have different numbers, but I can say that's pretty accurate from what I've seen in the various high school counselor friends that I have in my network. You can see the ratio up here, and then you can also see what the average cost of private college is per year in the United States and public schools as well. And we put this on here because our goal when we work with families, if finances are a concern, then we want to make sure that we're coming in under these averages for the students, especially at the private school level. So we're working with the family in their financial profile to make sure that their students will be able to afford the schools that they ultimately get admitted to. We never want to have a student be admitted somewhere and then parents say, sorry, you can't go. And then we act, this may not come as a surprise, we're big buffers between the parents and the teen during what can be a very fraught time in their high school experience and getting them to complete the application while also taking a full load of courses, doing their homework, maintaining friendships, being involved in extracurriculars. We often are the accountability people for these students. And then what makes us reputable, this is something that I think all of you as professionals or retired professionals can understand. We belong to several different professional organizations. We are held to an ethical code. We have credentialing as well. And we attend conferences, campus visits. This is not the varsity blues situation of years past. We are not taking, any kind of bribes to take someone's ACT or SAT. So we also don't guarantee college acceptances. We support students to put their best foot forward in their application, but we aren't in control of what the outcomes will be. This is our team. So we are a team of 5 consultants and then our client experience manager. Umbrella was founded in 2008 and it is based in the Hudson area. That's where our brick and mortar used to be before we became an all virtual team. But Jamie and I are the 2 consultants down here in Columbus. Our entire professional experience has been in Central Ohio, and it has continued with our Columbus branch of Estrella. However, we work with students from all over the country, and we have 2 bilingual consultants, so we have clients who are international as well. And the best part is, our team, we benefit from each other. So if I ever encounter a situation that I didn't have personal experience or practice with, likely I have a colleague who has. So we're often, using each other as sounding boards. This is the process we go through with all of our clients. So we call it our STARS process. Estrella, you may know, the one with 1 L, means star in Portuguese. So we go through this process with each client, and you can see the acronym STARS. But we always start with the student first and getting to know them, building rapport, making sure we have really helped them start to understand themselves. Oftentimes, students skip that part and just go straight to a college list. That doesn't make a lot of sense because this is a place you're going to be for 4 years that's going to lay the groundwork for wherever you go afterwards. And we want to make sure that that's going to be a good fit for you, but you have to know you first. So we start with a lot of student assessment, then we move on to building the list based on those family and student priorities. Then we support the application, and we round out with scholarships, financial aid, and decision making. So there's a visual for you. The value that we add to the families we work with, we go through so many campus visits a year. We often are doing college tours, learning about schools, meeting privately with admission reps, asking the super niche questions about usually finances. We have a lot of connections with admission reps, and we have the strength of our team as well. One of the interesting things is we have with our team 152 combined years of college counseling experience in our little group of 5. And we are texters. We can text, and if you know a teen, if you have a teen in your life, you probably know that is their mode of communication. And that is, again, one thing that separates what I used to do in my former life, like school counselor. I could not be texting the students. That would not have worked in the purview or scope of that role. Where now, if a student has a question, any time of day, they can reach out and I'm there to answer it, concierge style. We also are available outside of school hours. We meet with students in the afternoon and evenings, a couple days a week. And weirdly, we love teenagers. I know, it's weird, but they're great. They're so great. So like I said before, sophomores are pretty ideal, even juniors, because we like to take that time to get to know them. We do take on what we call late start seniors, where maybe they're just now really having their aha moment and thinking that college is right for them. However, there's less time and the process gets shrunk and accelerated much more quickly. Our mission is to try to take the stress, as much stress as possible, out of it for students and their parents. But if we're starting late, we'll be a little more stressed. And we have lots of public high school kids because of that size ratio I mentioned. And a lot of dual income, both working parents, full-time, very busy, and we are the people helping manage and keep the student accountable for the different timelines that are happening, where there is no extension on an application deadline, which is not what maybe they're used to in their high school. We have support for all ranges of academic needs. We have people on our team who specialize in working with student athletes. We have people who have specializations in working with learning differences. So any range of needs we really can support between the 5 of us. And then we also do offer an early start package. This is not an early start, get you into Harvard package. That's not the goal, that's not the aim. This is more for students who are really driven, super focused, and want to plan out what their high school experience is going to look like. So we do offer that, but that is not where our main focus is. So the current landscape of college admissions, now that you know a little bit about us and how we know so much, because this is what we do full time, we're always looking at the latest events, the current news cycle, what's happening nationally and even internationally in admissions world. So right now, selected admissions has been a really hot button topic. This application cycle has been the most selective application cycle yet. The escalation continues. Last year, they said that about last year's application cycle. What we mean when we say selective is just lower and lower and lower admit rates. We're talking schools like that are down to like 3% admit rate, where 15 years ago, they may have been 15–20% admit rates. The school didn't magically get better, but rather more students are applying, and then you get into economic supply and demand. So some insights that we have seen that continued increase, as I mentioned, and here are some data points to look at. So the data point closest to the name of the school, so we have some Boston schools here for you: Northeastern, BU, Boston College, and Tufts. The percentage that is closest to the school was back in 2021. Then you see the drop. 2022 application cycles. These are high school classes of 2021 to 2022 to last year's high school class of 2023. We do not yet have 2024 data because those numbers do not have to be published until the fall. Speculatively, though, our internal data is suggesting they're even lower. So you can see where the escalation is occurring, and we are encountering students that are frenzied, parents that are frenzied, feeling like it's never going to be enough, no matter how hard they work. And our mission is to try to infuse some sanity into the process. And if you were to see our post that we made just today of our list of accepted schools, we have students that are not all driven to apply to some of these highly selective schools. We try to be the voice of reason in the process and making sure that students who are hyper-focused on these top 50 schools, the same schools everybody nationally is focused on, also have some schools on their list that are reasonable and in which they are more likely to be admitted. But selective admissions becoming more selective is absolutely a huge trend and a huge area of concern. Other unofficial insights from last year's cycle, we've seen this increase, as I said, in these selective schools, as well as large southern schools, so flagship schools in the South. It's been a very big increase. You can see University of Tennessee, just last year, 68% admit rate. This year, 23.7 admit rate for out-of-state students and a 34% admit rate overall. Drastic plummet. Reasons for this, there's a lot of state-based programs that are being implemented throughout the South to incentivize students to stay in the South for college, rather than coming to the North, Midwest, or the Northeast. So these incentive-based programs are working. More students from in-state are applying, but that's why we're seeing such lower acceptance rate. Higher demand, same amount of supply, lower acceptance rate. And you can see here, we've put some other data points for other schools as well that maybe a couple of years ago wouldn't have been so highly selective that are now, hedging on, if not in single digits. So why the increase? There's a lot of things. The pandemic has had some play in this, not all, but some. One of the biggest pandemic outcomes was test optional. There was a time when many of the test centers weren't accessible. They were closed all over the country. So you can't very well require test scores for students if they can't take the test. So a lot of schools went test optional, and rather than do it for a year, if they're going to turn the Titanic, they've got to make sure they're putting policies in place that they can at least have for a couple of years. Be whiplash otherwise. So most schools put a 3-year pilot policy into place, test optional. Suddenly, students who maybe would have self-selected to take themselves out of the running because of a low test score no longer needed test scores. And now you're seeing this whole new demographic
flood the market with applications. So the last 3 years is partly why we've seen such a dip in admit rates. And the lower the acceptance rate, the better the positioning that those schools get in US News and World Report and other rankings, magazines and whatnots. Regardless of their other criteria, a lot of families, parents, and students alike see those low admit rates and think low admit rate equals prestige equals I'm gonna apply. And as I said, like 15 years ago, Northeastern's admit rate was like 45%. The school didn't change in some crazy drastic way, and now we're in the single digits. So you can see where just that one number drives up interest. Yeah.
Are students applying to more schools overall than they used to in the past?
That's a great question. The most recent data suggests that the increase per student is only like 0.7% more schools. But I know from what I have seen at least, like, so that's the national average. But I know internally, a lot of the students we work with, it would almost be blasphemy if they applied to less than 8. Not necessarily on our part, but the students feeling like I need to put out kind of that idea of I'm gonna throw as many darts as possible at the dartboard because something's gonna stick. That's not really good math, but that is where we find a lot of our students, the frenzy and the franticness and the desire to have prestige. But again, is why we try to be the voice of reason. We're trying to douse those flames a little bit. Doesn't work with every student or their parents. But to your point, the Common App is a newer application that was not around 20 years ago when I was applying to college. The Common App is a one-stop shop, one application, thousand schools. So that does make it easier for students to apply to more schools. Application fees tend to be the barrier, and that's why we don't see tons and tons across the board. And then we have this phenomenon, happens every year, a school gets hot for one reason or another, I will say, just qualitatively, I've noticed it tends to follow the trends of whatever team has won the NCAA basketball championship or the football, FBS, playoffs. Those teams that are getting a lot of national exposure tend to then become the hot schools. So hot schools suddenly we're seeing come onto the scene. So I talked about the increase in applications. That is one variable that is causing or contributing to the current landscape. Jamie's going to talk to you about institutional priorities, which is a fancy way of saying business needs, the needs that serve the business. And that is another contributor to these declining admit rates that we're seeing.
All right, thank you. So institutional priorities are kind of the other side of admissions. So everybody knows about, students need GPAs and test scores and essays and extracurricular activities. That is one piece of admission. The other is what are the colleges looking for? They're trying to fill a class. And these are the aspects that the students really don't have a whole lot of control over. And this is where we try to do a lot of that kind of infusing sanity and information into working with families to educate them about these things. So colleges are businesses at the end of the day, and they are looking for different things depending on what their priorities are. So they might be looking to fill a specific academic department. Maybe they are looking to raise more money, and a family that is going to be a big donor is going to be a priority to them. Athletic recruiting is always huge. Some schools will have a priority to raise the number of international students or to increase the number of first generation students. So all of these things listed on here are things that may be impacting on the college side the decisions that they're making. So especially when you get to those really highly selective schools, nearly everyone that applies there is academically qualified to get in. There are very few students applying who really have no shot. But these are the deciding factors often on the college side of what's making those decisions of who gets in and who doesn't. So another piece of the landscape right now is just testing policies, and Amber mentioned that as well. So I won't go into super detail about this, but during COVID, a lot of schools, nearly all the schools went test optional. And that has been kind of in place for a few years. There's been a few schools here and there that have come back and required test scores. We are now seeing for this upcoming senior class, suddenly they're changing. Every day, I feel like we're hearing about new schools that are now requiring test scores. So this is a very like volatile landscape right now that's changing every day. It's something that we're always keeping up with and working on with our students to help advise them of whether they should submit test scores, whether they're required to submit test scores, and if they have a test optional option, should they use it or not? So you'll see those, some schools require scores, some are optional, and then some, tend to be the schools out in California, there's a few others out there, actually won't use test scores, whether you have them or not. So we help understand for each student, the schools they're applying to, what their requirements are, and then how to navigate that. And then I'm sure you've all heard about this in the news, but costs on the rise is the other big piece of the admissions landscape. That New York Times headline, it just came out, I believe it was last week, that Vanderbilt is almost up to $100,000. They are now the highest cost of next year's total cost of attendance will be $98,426. And Vanderbilt does not give much merit scholarship at all. There's a little bit out there, they have a couple of very, very highly selected scholarships, but 98,000. So rising costs, if you think, when you apply to college, yeah, that's 1 year, 1 year. Yeah, 1 year. And just looking at where costs are, Ohio State is 27,000 total cost of attendance. Penn State, I just chose an out-of-state school for that. You're an out-of-state student, 52,000. Kenyon is 87. Notre Dame is 86. That has increased so much in the last 10, 15 years. So those are pieces to navigate as well in the process. So a few tips we wanted to share if you have high school students in your life, your kids, grandkids, neighbors, anything like that. These are some tips that we work on in much more depth with our students, but that we like to share out there in the world for anyone who needs them. So the first is create a balanced list. This is something we work on with our students, but we want to make sure that there's a good combination of likely schools, target schools, and reach schools. We also, those are the three categories you've probably heard of if you've gone through the admission process. I'm sure you've heard those three words before. We also go into a fourth category. We call any schools with a 10 to 15% rate or lower wildcard schools. Those are those schools that you can't even categorize them as reaches. They are so difficult to get into and so unpredictable because that's where those institutional priorities are going into their decision making. That those are wildcard, they're essentially a lottery. You can have the chance to compete for a spot is basically where we put our students is you are able to compete, that's the best we can do for it. So we want to make sure our students are having at least 2 or 3 likely, 2 or 3 targets that they would be happy to attend. That's the most important part. We want our students to be involved and passionate, be cohesive, make sure they've got depth in their activities, getting involved in research, getting involved in more than just their classes and their activities, and then being cohesive in their application as well. So making sure that their story makes sense, looking at does the application as a whole capture who they are and showcase them in their best light. And then the last tip is the scholarships versus prestige. So we talked about costs, we talked about those institutional priorities. I love this quote because it is so true. You can chase merit money or you can chase prestige, but you can't chase both. Colleges are a business behind the scenes. They're using merit money. It's not just because they feel really nice and want to give you a gift. They're trying to attract high-stat students to the school. And so those really selective schools don't need to attract high-stat students. They're all already applying. They don't have to give money to make them come. So that is our last tip is if merit money is important to you, then we've got to take that into account. You may not be able to go to those prestigious schools and get merit money. And then we've got a couple resources. Jeff Salingo and Big J Educational Consulting have some great resources about financial aid, selectivity, who gives how much money, and then also a common data set is you can find so much data for schools that participate in it. So you can look up data, look at admission stats, look at what they look at in their applications. Great information there on that. And then that's it. We have a newsletter, so if you have anyone in your life involved in the college admissions process, the newsletter is free once a month. We send out lots of tips, insider information, free events that we have going on. So that QR code will take you to that, and then there's our contact information as well.
Any quick questions before?
Yes.
The Supreme Court determined that admissions quotas based on race were illegal. Have you seen or heard of much of the effect resulting from that?
Yeah, that is a great question. So the official ruling is that they cannot use race. They can consider how a student's identity has impacted their experience. And so what we've seen, the admissions data isn't quite out there yet because as Amber said, that's not out till the fall. But what I've seen anecdotally is a lot of colleges adding essay questions to their individual applications and wanting students to explain their identity. And that could be race, it could be gender, it could be sexual orientation, it could be however they want to identify the word identity, how that has impacted their experience. And that is how they're navigating that process, basically. So they can use that, they just can't use the actual race marker. Yeah.
Any other questions?
And you do follow up with your students, after they've entered, how it's been?
We do.
The second part is that, we're very aware that occupational changes are accelerating so that half the jobs that will be there in 20 years don't exist today.
Yes.
Are you preparing to kind of be able to?
We do. So we do follow up with our students. We try to check in with our freshmen in college 2 or 3 times a year or so, just to see how they're doing. Any feedback about their school, how they feel like it fits, if they need any help, we're there to help them. Yes, occupation changing, I'd say kind of 2 things. We keep up, a big chunk of our job, other than working with students, is keeping up on research and national organizations and information about, new things that are coming up. So we try to stay on it that way as far as research. There's a lot of stuff coming out now about AI and careers in AI, that is just kind of starting and is going to be building. And then also teaching students, I would say, to navigate the skills that they have, not necessarily towards just one occupation, but how that could apply to various things. And so learning how to understand their strengths and understanding, that a career might not exist right this second, but you have these transferable skills that can go in different places. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm just glad I went to college over 50 years ago. All you had to do was fill out a short application and take a multiple choice test, and you could go where you wanted. Okay, who is our sergeant today? Do we have, sergeant, raffle today? Court is, I believe, and.
And so the day rate is $24. And the last 4 numbers are 6702. $6,702. Anybody? How about another one? It's a green ticket, and the last 4 numbers are 1316. 1316. Yeah, you know that 1307.
Oh, I have 136.
Well, for the big five is $333. That last 4 numbers are 6694.
Whoa.
George? George, don't even bother, we don't have the cards up here today. We're gonna have to choose, George, we're gonna have to choose next week. We don't have cards. I'm trying to tell you, George, we don't have a meeting today.
Right, Jack? I don't think so.
No. I don't know, I've got it, it's a draw next week.
Okay, wait a minute.
We'll have a cool deck for you. There we go.
Found it.
This is brand new deck.
Oh,
It's in here. Oh, the ace.
the wrong end.
Order.
Okay, let's do the four-way test. On behalf of all the things that we say and do. Number one.
Is it the truth?
Number two.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Number three.
Build goodwill and better friendships.
Number four.
Build a deep friendship with all concerned.
We are adjourned. I'm working on it, I'll be better.
Well, I lost it.
We're planning on it.
So we've got a couple that everything happens.
Well, we would allocate.
And then- And then some families feel like they don't need.
And if you need a little bit more.
We also have hourly options
Oh,
that are.
want forever.
And those range from. Yeah, and that's totally the back.
Yeah. For ourselves.
Yeah, you don't want it to drag on. No, I would set a goal maybe 25.
And so there's not even a big
And really,
I feel like every week we're hearing about.
focus on all the cool things that.
Yeah, so it's like divided into two extremes.
Have an idea.
And that's part of our goal is to, you know, like, I just visited, which is out.
I come from the international student tax. I do English and American citizens. You say, well, we are still a chance, we go for 50 years. Maybe it's just me, huh? Yeah, oh, this goes into this right here in the bottom. Yeah.